Today we're here with one of the Caribbean's leading youngest sexologists, Shelly-Ann Weeks, and we'll be discussing sexology and sexual issues. Welcome to Arena. Shelly-Ann Weeks, welcome to Arena.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you are one of the Caribbean's leading youngest sexologists.
Oh, boy, that sounds important.
Well, what made you become a sexologist?
Like, just on a personal level, I've always been very curious about, what our bodies can do. I've seen people try it with adrenaline rush, like adrenaline junkies. They're always jumping off things and all of this for the big rush. And I've seen persons do it with how they express themselves with tattoos and piercings. And they really push the envelope. So I really wanted to figure out how much pleasure can the human body stand? I mean, can pleasure actually kill you?
Yeah.
Have you ever wondered about that? So for me, it was a personal quest. I wanted to figure out my body to see, what feels good to me. It was a very, very personal thing to me. And the more I studied this, the more intrigued I got. And, I started helping my friends. Like, my friends would be coming up to me and asking me all sort of questions. And I usually am able to answer the questions. So it sort of grew from there. But I never, ever went into this as a business. It was never the goal.
How do you monetize the study of sexology?
Well, right now, my main income in terms of monetizing it comes from the fact that I broadcast. I have a radio show, Dr. Sexy Live,
and
I'm a columnist as well. So from the radio show, a lot of other things spring off. So for example, I do speed dating. So speed dating is something that I do every month, where I get a lot of persons together and they find somebody they're interested in. And I also do one-on-one counseling with couples as well as individuals. And a lot of the times, persons don't know what they are doing when they come to me. They're just kind of curious. And the more we work together, the more we discuss with each other, we realize that actually help them to get to a place that they wanted to be. They just didn't know where to start.
Yeah.
So in terms of monetizing it, I do the radio show. I'm a columnist, and as well, I do events around sex and sexuality. I've done speeches at various institutions, schools, and all of that, speaking to young people and older people as well about just finding that comfort zone with sexuality. Because let's face it, sexuality is still very taboo right here in the Caribbean, and we still aren't at the place where we are comfortable enough just discussing how we feel sexually.
Tell me, why is that so?
It's the way we're brought up. I mean, our socialization speaks to hiding that part of us. We don't speak of it in public. We know it exists like this dirty little secret. We know it's going on because, people are having kids left, right, and center. The virgin birth is the only one we know about. So as it relates to how we deal with it, I think it's just a socialization, the way we look at sex and sexuality as something that's supposed to be done behind the closed doors and it should stay there.
Yeah.
So the whole idea of talking in an open forum about sexuality horrifies a lot of people.
It does, I see. But sexology, it encompasses both a science and a social science.
Yes.
How do you marry the two, and what's your take on that?
Well, for me, I'm actually more interested in the social part of sexology. There are sexologists who are diagnostic sexologists. So they really focus a lot on the science and problems, sexual issues, and whether from disorders to different things that can hinder persons from enjoying their sexuality. I am more interested in the social standpoint. And the reason for that is, I think, whenever we get to the point where we can be completely open and honest with each other about how we think sexually, it will do a lot overall to how we express ourselves, period. I'll give you an example. Just look at the way we look at homosexuality in the Caribbean, especially here in Jamaica. And I think that if we were at a place where we can be open and honest and objective about it, then it wouldn't be such a big issue that gets so many people so upset, because they'll be more open to understanding exactly what it is about and looking from the eyes of a homosexual person. And I think be a little bit more tolerant to how we relate to each other. Right now it's like, listen, I don't want to hear about it, it's wrong, Get out of my face, that's it.
But let me ask you, are we becoming more tolerant with
Without a doubt.
homosexuality?
We are becoming more tolerant, period. The fact that I do what I do is a proof of that. I would not be able to have a show on radio 5 days a week in Jamaica in 1995.
Right.
So we are becoming more tolerant. We are becoming more educated, and I like to think that I'm part of that.
Yeah.
But I think that the way we look at sexuality is changing. I think we could change a lot faster. I would like to see the change happen quicker, but the change is happening. And if you look at the younger generation, they look at sex and sexuality very different from their parents do. So even just with that, observation, the change is definitely happening, and we are absolutely a lot more tolerant than we used to be.
Let me press you a little bit. It's said that more so in Jamaica that lesbianism has become a lot more prevalent and a lot more open. Can you explain that? Is that the case?
Well,
what are you seeing?
I think it's a combination of a couple of things. I think the first thing is that the way we look at homosexuality is in Jamaica. We separate lesbians from male homosexuals.
Yeah.
And we are more tolerant of lesbians. And I guess that comes from the fact that girls have always been close. It's not strange to see two girls being very close physically, or even, I have friends who, they stay over my house and we sleep in the same bed, and no one ever questioned our sexuality. So I think the way we look at how girls socialize with each other has always been, girls are close. So because of that, it makes it easier for persons to transition a close friendship into more than friendship where girls are concerned, because we already accept that girls are closer. I think it also comes from a standpoint where, the fact that we are more tolerant, girls are more comfortable being open about who they are.
Yeah.
Like, generally speaking, if you compare a man versus a woman, a man, something's bothering him, his first instinct is to bottle it up and keep it to himself. When something's bothering a girl, she cuss about it. She's very vocal. She says something. She needs to talk about it. So I think generally speaking, women are a lot more ready to express themselves how they truly feel than men are, because I think they have less to lose, just because of how we look at, male homosexuality versus female homosexuality.
Some have expressed the opinion that perhaps a reason for it is because a lot of young women feel let down by males.
That's a factor.
The emotional support, the socio-economic
That's
factor
a factor
as well.
That's a factor.
Can you go into that a little more?
Yeah, man. I've personally spoken to a lot of women in lesbian relationships who have expressed that view that, listen, they've had really bad experiences with men, and not just one bad experience, several bad experiences, and they've just had enough. So they're like, listen, and usually what happens is that they really have a really good female friend who just became more. But I think it's a little bit more than that, because you can't catch homosexuality. You don't just get up today and say, okay, I was straight all my life and today I feel gay, so I'm gonna be gay. That's not how homosexuality works. I think what happens as well is reflection of circumstance. Sometimes it's a means to an end. So it's not necessarily that she's gay. It's more like she's in a situation now that's better than a situation that she was in previously. So now she adjusts to it. So it's not necessarily that you have a straight woman all her life, get up one day and becomes gay. I think she gets the companionship, she gets the closeness, she gets what she needs from this relationship with her female companion, and it just develops into that, and she works with it, because working with that is better than any previous thing, any prior relationship she had with a man before.
But what can be done to bring both Jamaican men and Jamaican women closer together, to work more in harmony?
Well, I think what is happening, and this is something that I personally...
Should be taught, do you think,
from
a parental or from a societal perspective?
I think the divide is a result of a few things. The first thing is that we're a Christian nation. And as a Christian, I say Christian like this because, we are Christian when we want to be. But if we follow the Bible, men are in charge, women should submit to men. However, when you have a lot more women being educated, when you have a lot more women having positions of power, when you have a lot more women earning more money than men, when you have women finding themselves in authoritative situation, how are you going to tell that woman she needs to submit to a man? If you look at a woman from the 1950s and a 21st century woman, it's two different animals. But the men, I think, are still in 1950s mentally, because they're still expecting women to submit to them. They're still expecting women to be the weaker sex. They're still expecting women to do the things that they are traditionally expected to do. But the woman has changed. So what I think needs to happen is that the men need to adjust their expectation to accommodate the change. Because that's not gonna, women are not gonna go back in the kitchen. Like, I have a friend, she says she's not even gonna teach her daughter how to cook. Like, she don't even want her daughter to know how to cook. That's how serious she is. She said she's not interested in her daughter becoming some man's wash, cook, and clean lady.
So the paradigm is changing.
Definitely.
Yeah. We'll be back shortly after the break.
Dear Santa, all I want for Christmas is
a dishwasher,
a big screen TV.
We've been told you've been nice. Compare and save. Let us make your Christmas wishes come true. What's on your wish list?
Welcome back to the show. You've taken a very, almost a scholastic approach to sexology.
Yeah.
You said before that you were influenced by Lou Paget.
Lou Paget, yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, you know what? Actually, like I said, I never thought that I would. If you asked me 10 years ago what I'd be doing, I'd probably say I'm an accountant or something.
Yeah, like, so you use that business management degree.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, I never saw this happening at all. But one thing kind of led to another.
Yeah.
And here I am. I saw Lou Paget on Real Sex, on HBO's Real Sex, and I was like, that is what I want to be doing.
Right. No, I mean, it's quite timely because you have Masters and Johnson's.
Yes,
and Masters of Sex on Showtime.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Do you want to talk a little about that? That was a seminal study
conducted. But you know, I saw some of the episodes, and I just you know these TV producers are brilliant because they just literally show the scientific process in such a practical way. Because I mean, who was thinking about what's happening between a man and a woman when they have sex? So the fact that they were having those kind of questions at that time, you know, is remarkable because a lot of the things that they discovered in their studies are still being referred to even today.
Yeah. Now, but one of the things that William Masters is saying is that back in those days, it was very buttoned up.
Yes.
Today, sexuality is free, it's part of everything.
Absolutely, in your face.
It's still buttoned up. We still have a very buttoned-up approach about it.
Right.
We don't want to discuss it.
Right.
It's taboo. So we haven't really made that much of a leap from Masters and Johnson to today. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Why is that?
One of the things that I always admired about the research that Masters and Johnson achieved was the female orgasm. And for a very long time, nobody cared whether or not women enjoyed sex. Women were just a part of men's enjoyment. They were just there to facilitate it. Nobody cared if she had an orgasm or not. A lot of times, a lot of women didn't even know it was possible for them to enjoy the process. They look at it as something that they're supposed to do. If you're a wife, it's your duty to see to your husband's sexual need. So for a very long time, female sexuality, who cares? Nobody, it was never important. When you're taught about sex, you hear about the pain that you're supposed to feel as a girl. You hear about the discomfort. Nobody tells you about what happens to your body when you become aroused. How are you supposed to feel? Even the way you look at, how they grow, little boys versus little girls. A little boy at 4 months discovers his penis and sits there and tugs at it and plays with it. And everybody says, "Oh my God, it's so cute!" And they watch him and they laugh and they think it's so wonderful. Little girl takes off her top, her mom beats her to go put on clothes. So even just the way we socialize boy versus girl sexually affects how we see ourselves when we become adults. So all of these things come together. And now when you look in the 21st century, is that sex is everywhere. You pick up your smartphone, it's there. You can see it everywhere.
Yeah.
And because of that, what is happening is that you're getting that information overload. So now you're seeing a whole heap of things and you're saying, okay, how do I decipher through all of this information? And that's one of the biggest reasons why I do what I do, because I realize that there are lots of persons who just don't know. They don't understand. They know that they're supposed to want to feel like this, and they're supposed to do this, and if they want to have a child, it's what they do. They know where their body parts go, but they don't know that it can be this much more exciting, it can be that much more better, and it doesn't have to be something that you look at as a duty, and it doesn't have to hurt. It can really, really feel good, and it actually can be something that benefits you in the end. So a lot of persons don't make that connection, and I think that is added to by the fact that we still look at sexuality as such a taboo topic.
But tell me, the model we're under now, we have been for hundreds of years.
Hundreds of years, yeah.
Is the model of monogamy.
Yeah.
And the model that perhaps you get married, you have a partner, that one partner. But
for life.
Yeah. What's your take on that? Is that model now skewed? I mean, now we're seeing a
well,
lot more
the
promiscuity.
evidence
People have multiple partners.
The evidence of the success or failure of that model is in our face, because almost half of marriages are ending in divorce now.
But should sexuality define relationships?
I personally don't believe so, but there are people who do. For example, people believe that you need to be gay or straight, or you need to be black or white, or you need to be over here, over there. It needs to be a defined thing. Nowadays, you have a lot of persons who are saying, but they don't fall in one of those categories. They fall in both of them. Why can't I be both?
Yeah.
So a lot of persons are trying to defend their right to choose what works for them and what feels good to them, rather than to fall into these defined groups. And what we're finding is that in order to achieve that, you have a lot of underground sort of activities, because like swinging is one of them. Swinging happens right here in Jamaica. And you see a lot of situations where you have bisexual situations as well, and you have parties and orgy parties and all of those things, because what is happening is that they get to express that side of them, but underground, because they can't come out and about with it, because we still are looking at gay or straight, and as a Christian country, the right thing is to be straight. Right. So whether you're straight or not, if you're coming from that belief system, you're trying to fit into the mold that society expects of you. And that's not always possible for everybody.
The National Family Planning Board is saying that in the space of 12 months, a male will have 6 partners, a woman 2.8 partners. And that is leading to an increase in HIV and STDs. What's your take on that?
Well, it is proven that if you have multiple partners, you increase your risk in getting any infection, STD, HIV infection. But I think what is also happening is that I personally believe that human beings are not monogamous, naturally monogamous. And you know, the scientific community is trying to find a species of mammal that is completely monogamous. I don't know it yet, but I'm sure they'll figure it out eventually. And as a result of that, what happens is that it is difficult for persons to stay in the commitment that they have chosen to be a part of.
It's a straitjacket.
It's a straitjacket. Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of times what happens is that, you know, they do it in hiding. And so the question is, should we still even try to do this? Or should we put ourselves in a position where we can be more open about what we're doing? And I'll give you an example. The percentage of persons who are getting STI infections, HIV infections, are married women. They are the highest percentage of women that demographic that's showing a high result in HIV infections and STD infections. And that's because their husbands have unprotected experiences and come home and give it to them. Now, I've actually spoken to prostitutes. I've interviewed prostitutes myself, and prostitutes are telling me men don't want to use condoms. They charge a price with condom and a charge without condom, and the price without condom is more expensive, and they choose that price most of the time.
But isn't that taking a risk, a big risk?
Of course, and you're not just risking your health, you're risking your partner's health.
Right.
So I think.
And is that prevalent in Jamaica now?
I don't know. I won't go straight to prevalent. What I would say is that it is happening a lot, and it's happening even more often now, because I guess there's an experience, there's an excitement to having having the experience without the barrier of the condom. Because a lot of men complain about how condoms feel and it's not very sexy to them and the sensation isn't what they would like it to be. So they have a lot of complaints where condoms are concerned. But personally, I think that we need to rethink the way we sensitize the public about sexuality. I think instead of telling them that we're keeping it in the closet, sexuality is still in the closet. We need to take it out of the closet. I think we need to just blah out there with it. And some persons will say, but it's already out there. But what is out there? Porn is out there. Porn is a no-holds-barred look at sex in one specific way. We need the other side of the story. We need the side of the story that says, hey, when you do what you see on porn, this is what can happen. Right now, you have young people, students, who don't consider anal sex sex. They don't consider oral sex sex. They think sex is when a penis penetrates the vagina. So everything outside of penis penetrating vagina doesn't count as sex. That is a result of misinformation. Because it's all counts and it's all very risky. As a matter of fact, anal sex is even more risky than any of them. So I think that the way we disseminate information, the way we continue to look at sex needs to be adjusted so that we can be more open and aware of the risks that we're taking.
Following on from that, let me ask you, is it the case that we should begin or put more of an emphasis on sexual education at the school level?
Without a doubt.
And where should we begin this? How would you implement it?
Well, personally for me, I think that the education shouldn't just happen at school. I think to the students. I think something needs to be put in place where parents can get access to information, where they can be more comfortable talking to their kids about sex. A big hoopla was made about this book that came out, the Ministry of Education put out, and personally, I think the book is very sound. I actually have a copy of the book. And a lot of persons get very up in arms when they hear about same-sex couples having kids and all of these kind of things. But I think that we need to look at it in context. And parenting is parenting. And if you're a parent and you're imposing on your child sex on your child in an adult way where it's inappropriate, whether you're gay, straight, or otherwise, shouldn't even be relevant. The fact is you're crossing the line, period. But if you're a parent who is taking care of your child and looking for their welfare and providing for them and loving them and all of that, why should your sexuality matter?
I don't know if you saw the tape of the kids in Barbados literally having sex in the classroom, and that it's gone way beyond probably what transpired 20, 30 years ago, and that it will lead to a morally loose culture and probably, you know, children, the degradation of children and so forth. Well, what's your take on that?
It goes back to what I'm saying about educating the kids. If we continue to hide sexuality from them, they're gonna experience it. They're just doing it on their terms. They're experiencing it on a level that they have access to. They're doing it what they can do. And the difference between now and 20 years ago, just to speak to that comment, is now they have a smartphone to video it. It's not that it didn't happen then. When I was in high school, girls were having sex on the bus with conductors, going, and you know, I'm not that old still, but yeah. When I was in high school, that was happening. It's just that back then, we didn't have a camera phone that could videotape it happening. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it's a result of us continue. It's all right. Remember when you were a child and your grandmother tell you that you can't play with the knife, and she put up the knife, and as soon as she go on, you climb the chair and you pick up the knife, and at some point you cut yourself, and the minute you cut yourself, you left the knife alone. That's what's going on. Sex is the knife. We are trying to hide sex from them. They're finding out about it otherwise, and they're finding out about it through porn. Porn says, do whatever you want to do. You're saying don't do it at all. Them doing whatever they want to do feels better. They're curious.
Peaked
yes.
By pornography and those kind of salacious acts.
And then when they come to you as their parents, you shut them down. A friend of mine called me frantic. His daughter just asked him what her clitoris is for, and he just sent her to her room. I said, all right. I said, all right. Go knock on the door and confiscate her clitoris and keep it until you think she's old enough to have it.
On that note, I think the program, we're going to end the program, and we'd like to bring you on again sometime.
It's
and
an absolute pleasure.
I wish you the very best of luck with
Thank
your
you very
expo show.
much. Yes.